Books, like every other thing in life, live to teach us that when you have your expectations set really high, there will be that occasional book, or five, that will bring you back to earth to remind you that nothing is certain and books can be just as disappointing as every other thing in life, like your career, your love life. Hello, everybody. I'm Nora back again, and I'm here to talk about my five most disappointing reads of 2018. Now, let me just state out loud that these are not books I hated. I don't really think I read any book this year that I really, really hated passionately enough that if there was a way to give a book 0 stars, I would give it 0 stars. That is the strength and the force of my burning hatred for books I really, really hate. No, these are more books that I had really high expectations of and for. I thought that they would make me feel things. I thought that I would love things about it. Maybe they've been hyped, maybe I've read something similar to it, but basically books that I really, 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 really thought I would love. I fell so short of the mark that I walked away from it all totally and completely disappointed. Now, this is a collection of poetry and novels and short fiction and non-fiction, which, now that I think about it, is very interesting because it just goes to show that disappointment in books knows no genre. So the very first disappointing read of the year for me was L. Nathan John's Born on a Tuesday. So I follow L. Nathan John on Twitter. He has such a smart mind, witty comebacks. He has this way of bringing a new perspective to issues, and I enjoyed it. He's a satirist by nature. So as far as I'm concerned, it ticked a lot of my boxes, but this just goes to show that you might like someone on Twitter, and then when you finally get the chance to pick the book, it might not really meet up to the expectations you had for the book. Now, going into the book, I knew that this book was about a boy named Dantala. I knew that we were following his life. I knew that he lived in northern Nigeria, and I wanted to read a book set in northern Nigeria because there are not that many books done that way. And for that, it met all those expectations. I was able to relate. I was able to understand things from their perspective. I was able to see that there were some things in my life that I took for granted. I was able to see my own privilege, which were the things I really enjoyed about the book. My problem with the book, though, was it seems like L. Nathan John had a list of issues he wanted to just feature in his book. Like, he had a bucket list. In this book, all these issues must be mentioned. Some of them not even treated as in-depthly as they need to be. One, homosexuality, in the sense that there are two characters he mentions, like they were talking gays. They were there, you blink and you miss them. And then he just wrote them out of the story. And I was like, huh? There was Islamatization. He talked about women's rights, or rather their lack of rights in northern Nigeria, and how most of their decisions and choices are not theirs to make. It talks about radicalization. It talks about the corruption of certain Islamic tenets by different Islamic teachers. It mentions in passing depression. It talks about the education system in northern Nigeria. It weaves into the politics and how northern Nigerian youths are used, for practically flimsy sums in order to, cause chaos, and how everything is so quick to dissolve into bloodshed. It talks about police brutality. He talked so much about every single one of these issues that it didn't take enough time to actually delve into them, and it just felt so rushed. I left the book feeling so incomplete. Like, you do not need to talk about every single thing, but the issues and the things you do intend to talk about, please stick to them and actually talk about them. Otherwise, you just leave your readers, like me, feeling disappointed as fuck. So yes, this was the very first disappointing read of 2018 for me. No, this book was not released in 2018. I just read it in 2018, but there you go. The next disappointing read of 2018 for me has to be Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. Now, I follow Rupi on Instagram. I think the very first time I heard about her, Lily Singh of I Superwoman I mentioned her. I went looking for her on Instagram. I saw a couple of snippets of her poems, and there was something about, Beyonce liked it and everything. So I was like, okay, do you know what? This sounds like fun. I listen to poetry occasionally, but it's not a staple in my reading life. So I was like, I would get this collection of poetry and I would enjoy it. And you know what? I did enjoy a bit of it. I love the way in which each poem had a little drawing that connected to what she was saying. I love the fact that there were some poems there that were really profound and deep, but a lot of the poems were just trite and surface level. And I'm sorry if I'm reading a book of poetry, I want it to give me goosebumps. I think Maya Angelou, JP Clark, Andre Lord, they spoiled me. I don't necessarily need my poetry having so much depth, but let me have goosebumps. Let me feel, because poetry is such a beautiful, beautiful genre of literature. It's all about how deeply they can evoke emotions. And I've read some poems that have made me cry. I've read poems that have made me laugh. And this collection of poetry made me feel things like a little of the time, but most of the time I was just meh. I am still going to get The Sun and Her Flowers, but I'm not going to be in such a rush to get it. Hopefully, I love it better than I do this one. The third disappointing read of 2018 for me has to be This Will Be My Undoing by Morgan Jerkins. See, I love non-fictional stories. I love autobiographies even more. I think autobiographies are like a doorway into someone else's mind. It's like someone just opened their doors and was like, please come in, make yourself comfortable, dig into my secret, dig into my fears, feel all my emotions. And it's just, I'm nosy as fuck. So of course I love autobiographies. What I love even more than regular autobiographies are autobiographies that are also a form of Black feminist literature. And this book, all things considered, should have checked all my boxes because it was everything I wanted, but it fell short. I could not connect with her. I had a problem with the way she thought. I had a problem with the fact that she gave this air like she was better than other Black women, who she kind of like, I don't know, implied that they were kind of ghetto or from the hood. I just had a problem with that. I had a problem with the fact that she did have privilege, and although she sometimes admitted to it, it was not a constant. Like, she did not address the fact that she came from a fairly middle class, comfortable background, which was why she was able to enjoy and have a lot of these experiences and the leg up she got in the world. Like, I also had a problem with the fact that she did not seem to have a lot of Black female friends. Feminism for me is not just about rights, but also about the womanhood, because we come together to make changes as a group. And I don't know, I just felt that disconnect. And I don't know if it was also because of her privilege. That is why she separated herself from a lot of women she could have been friends with. And I guess my problem was that shortly before I read this book, I'd read another Black feminist text, Eloquent Rage, and I loved that. So I guess I took in all that feelings, all that emotions, that joy of Eloquent Rage, and I brought it expecting this would be my undoing, would be yet another book I would enjoy, but I did not, and it was disappointing, and I'm sad just thinking about it because I had such high expectations for this book. The fourth disappointing read of 2018 for me has to be Huntress by Malinda Lo. See, I had such high expectations for this book. I had friends who had read Malinda Lo's Hush, and they had only pleasant and good things to talk about it. So I was in love even before I bought the book. Had the fact that it's a sapphic YA fantasy novel, and it seemed to check all my boxes. But when I finally read the book, it took me 5 days to finish this book, which is, even though I had work, that it was forever because I zoned out. I found it boring. The writing was messy. There was this constantly changing POV that just felt like I was in a constantly revolving door. I did not know who I was or where I was. There was the failed sense of urgency that she tried to bring into the book. Like, the world is coming to an end. How do you tell a story of things about to go to shit and I do not give a damn? I had problems with issues of consent that was brought up somewhere in the book. I could not connect with the romance, which was sad because, I repeat, it's a sapphic YA fantasy novel. And I was really looking forward to falling in love with the relationship between Katie and Tyson, but I couldn't. And it's heartbreaking for me because, I repeat, I was really looking forward to loving this book. But between the characters and the romance and the writing and the feel sense of urgency, the only thing that redeemed the book for me was the magic system. But even with that, I still found it a very, very disappointing read. And the last disappointing read of 2018 for me has to be Merry Inkmas by Talia Ebert. Now, Chandler Ainsley of Chandler Ainsley suggested that we all, a group of us, do a read along of Merry Inkmas, you know. And I was excited because it's Christmas. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be funny, it's going to be cute, it's going to be interesting, plus it's going to be smutty. And you're like, okay, I'm all for smut. Christmas smut, bring it on. I'm sure you already figured that did not really work for me. I found the smut lacking. Like, if I was to give the it level in this book a rating, I would say it got like a 0.5 over 5 star. Yes, a 0.5 over 5. Like, how do you sell a book as smutty and then we read it and there is practically zero smut? I think they only had sex once. There was a lot of failed attempts, and even the sex was just ugh. No, I'm sorry. I have read way more smutty books. I have very high smutty tastes. So when you're telling me that something is smutty, it had better bring the heat. I also did not like the fact that the characters were bland and uninteresting. Like, I can't even remember anybody's name. That was how boring I found the book. It was warm, it was cozy, so it delivered on that. But on everything else, I was just meh. So yes, those are my 5 most disappointing reads of 2018. Have you read any of them? What are your thoughts on them? Did any of them also make your disappointing list, or was any of the books I found disappointing books you actually loved and enjoyed? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I make new videos every Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and so I will see you soon. Bye.